Analytics half an hour. This afternoon, we're going to tackle purchasing and Google Analytics and the problems that occur that make it difficult to measure because of multiple domains and some of the business reasons that people would use multiple domains and the effects of choosing different payment gateways. Now, as ever, this kind of tracking is of extreme value. You'll move ahead of your competitors just by getting into using this kind of stuff. So let's get on with it. Just before we start, let me explain. I'm Vernon Riley. I'm a chartered mechanical engineer. I've spent my career working with systems and processes. So I apply engineering insights to build measurement and reporting systems that go alongside the analytics, which are tailored to fit businesses, so fit your business. Just a word about the interface in your browser. It's fairly simple. There's a sidebar on the right-hand side, and if you're watching this live, there's a chat area. Now, clearly, I can't keep a view on all the chat whilst I'm concentrating on talking, but if you post messages in there, I'll do my best to keep up, and we may well have a Q&A at the end. So, if you're hearing that, that's great. Let's get going. Okay, let's refresh our memory. The technical problems about measurement when you've got multiple domains, I've shown a light blue one and a grey one, come from two main sources. First is that Google Analytics, like many of the modern systems, is based on cookies which are tied to the domain. So the cookies that belong to your domain, your website, aren't going to be presented to those of the shopping cart. And the other, which is a more general technical and perhaps commercial problem, is you may not be able to control or even influence the code on the other side. Sometimes you do, at least enough to sort this out. It may be a CRM or other provider. You may be able to analyze this code. Right now, the third-party providers vary. ClickBank does allow your analytics code, lead pages, other things like that. And in all of those cases, get somebody who knows what they're doing with analytics so that they can follow the instructions of the third party and run some tests, right? You will find that the documentation is potentially a little out of date and that the documentation is aimed at the older asynchronous version of analytics, not the universal analytics that most people are now using, right? Now, PayPal, which is the main payment gateway we're going to talk about this afternoon, doesn't allow code onto their site, right? So what do you do in those circumstances? Well, you have to watch out for the signals from the payment gateway and artificially push data into Google Analytics, right? So let's go into a bit more detail. When you put a PayPal buy button, right, you had a lot of good business reasons driving you to do this. Your customers have got PayPal accounts, if you want to accept payments in multiple currencies, and there are good reasons to use PayPal. One thing, I'm going to issue a caveat now, which is a general business caveat. Bear in mind, PayPal isn't a conventional merchant account, so it's not a true alternative to the kind of merchant account you would get from a bank. If you recall the history, PayPal was set up to enable eBay, the online auction site, to work. And some major e-commerce retailers found to their cost, PayPal has effectively got a single merchant account with Visa and another one with MasterCard. So if there's any problem with your account, what PayPal does is to take the money back from you, the vendor, hand it to the purchaser and wait for you to object, or at least put it into their bank account rather than leave it in yours. And so that's one commercial issue that you perhaps face. The other is a development issue, which is that PayPal grew so big so quickly that it didn't have to pay the same kind of attention that some of the smaller payment gateways that had to pay to development facilities. So the developers find it slightly more difficult sometimes to get solutions working with PayPal, although there are good reasons why they want to. Anyway, let's look at PayPal as a system. You put a PayPal buy now button somewhere on your website, and you put some code around that button that contains the details of the payment to be made. Typically, it'll have price, the currency, and the item description. And when the visitor presses that button, the visitor gets transferred to the PayPal site. And that's immediately the cross-domain situation. So if you were measuring it on your site with Google Analytics, you've now lost visibility of what the potential purchaser, is now doing, right? And the purchase funnel might include pages on your site, right? But it's not going to be able to include pages from PayPal, right? Now, there are two problems. There's a simple workaround. One is that you can ignore the pages on PayPal and you say, well, I'll just measure, if you look at the diagram, I'll measure them when they get to step 5. So I'll look at the numbers who come in and they get to the buy button, and then I'll look at the numbers who get to step 5. And I would just assume that there's a dropout of some sort. So that may be a perfectly workable business solution for some people. Right, but there are some problems with this. One is that purchasers don't necessarily bother to follow the final redirection from PayPal back to your website. Right, so they may have bought the item, they may have done all the things you wanted them to do. It's just that they didn't hang around long enough to go back to your website at step 5. All right. The other problem is that this system doesn't handle discounts in multiple quantities well. You see, typically on step 5, you might put something into Google Analytics or something into Google AdWords that says conversion happened and the price was, let's say, £100 or $100. And that works fine for a simple static price, something that doesn't alter. Right? However, there are lots of business situations where the price does alter. Right? You might have discounts, you might have multiple quantities. Now, it's not that PayPal doesn't know about this, it's that it isn't visible, right, to the purchaser, to the end user, right? What happens is that PayPal has a notification system. It sends things instant purchase notifications back to a page on your website. Now, understanding this notification requires some capability, and you have to understand the user doesn't see these notifications. They're completely unaware of the fact that they exist. And worse than the user not seeing them, the browser doesn't see them. Now, remember that I said Google Analytics relies on cookies and JavaScript. So the browser that's got the cookies and the ability to process JavaScript doesn't see these notifications either, right? So they will allow your systems to update your database and say, so-and-so, you get names, addresses, purchase amounts and stuff like that. You update the database with purchase what and in what circumstances and stuff like that. But it doesn't go into the measurement system. It doesn't go into Google Analytics. It doesn't go into Google AdWords. Right? So what you need is somebody who's got the technical wherewithal to make use of some of the facilities in Google Universal Analytics, the modern system that became the standard from the latter part of 2013. Right? You need somebody to leverage that and get the conversion values out and into the places they should be seen by AdWords and Analytics. Now, this is not a trivial exercise. So if you're facing this problem, feel free, reach out. Happy to have a chat because the solutions exist, but the devil's in the detail, and the details vary widely between different sites. Right? There's no particular standard as to how the receiver, the instant purchase notifications works. The timings of the notification from PayPal will be all over the place. It's open to questions to whether they're guaranteed to deliver. They're certainly guaranteed to happen before step 5 happens. Right? And the as I've alluded to, the problem is that at step 5, PayPal doesn't send the details of the purchase transaction with the visitor back to your website. So effectively, you could be flying blind in terms of the actual values and stuff like that. And that's going to be important if you're trying to do any kind of dynamic advertising. You know, there are methods in AdWords where you can ask it to adjust the bid price based on the conversion values, right? So you would want to have accurate conversion values finding their way back to your site. Okay, now I'm going to contrast PayPal now with what I'm going to term, on an opinion, of course, but a better quality payment gateway. I'm going to look at Sagepay. Sagepay happens to be a UK-based payment system. There are equivalents in the US, and Sagepay, right, has something that the simplest form of integration is the form-based integration, and you'll see it doesn't actually look very different from the PayPal situation. You haven't got the yellow boxes because what happens with the form integration is you build the cart. So you do a lot of the groundwork on your site, and they give you the code to do this, and you get to a point where the visitor confirms that they want to purchase this item or these items. And then there's a very comprehensive protocol, set of rules for transferring that information from your website to Sagepay, right? And at the point that the purchaser presses that button, you transfer to the Sagepay website, all right? And they take the responsibility for completing the building of the shopping cart, right, and collecting the crucial customer data like the credit card information. Now, as in the same way as PayPal, this relieves you of the responsibility to observe the onerous security requirements that come with looking after credit cards. Unless you've got a really good reason, you've got a high volume or something like that, trying to observe and meet the requirements of the payment card data security specifications isn't a job that you want to take on lightly. Right, so you get you find the purchasers found their way to the Sagepay website, they collect the card details, and they basically complete the process there, and then they come back to your website. Now, the nice bit about this, as compared to the PayPal scenario, is it isn't optional that they find their way back to your website, right? You didn't have to log into Sagepay and do all sorts of stuff like that. It just happened. And at the point that they come back to your website, all of the purchase transaction information comes with them. Right? So if you wanted to pick that information up and feed it into Google Analytics, as I would argue you should want to, it's all there, and it's all there in the same place and in the browser session. So you've got the cookies and all the bits and pieces, so you can feed this information into Google Analytics. So in this, if you pick this kind of payment provider, your developer is going to have a much easier task of getting the information into Google Analytics, Google AdWords, or any other system that you want to. You know, as ever, we talk about that if that's an issue, but it's much easier, right? The snag, which affects both this and the simple PayPal scenario, is the visitor is very clearly aware that they're no longer on your site. Now, you can argue with PayPal, the name is so well known that, yeah, fine, I'm paying with PayPal. But with other payment gateways, I mean, Sagepay is going to be an unknown name in the US, I suppose, and there'll be equivalents for each territory, each country. People might say, well, I'm going there. Who on earth are they? Why would I want to go pay on that site? So you do have that issue. And for those kind of situations, Sagepay and some of the other better quality payment providers have another solution. They have something called their server solution. And that enables you to effectively hide all of the Sagepay pages and stuff inside a window that appears to be on your website. So it's actually done using an iframe, right? And this allows the collection of credit card details and this kind of thing still technically to happen on their systems. So you're not called by the security specifications, but the purchaser has a much more seamless experience. They think they're purchasing from your website because you can make the look and feel of the the Sagepay bits that are on your website match your look and feel, right? So it looks seamless, right? But, right, as you'll see from my diagram, the message sequence becomes a bit more complicated, and whilst there are comprehensive documents, I think this is a one-page, relatively simple diagram that makes it a bit clearer than some of them. Let's walk through it. The same kind of system as ever. You're going to build a shopping cart, and you get to a point where somebody says, "Yeah, I'm happy to purchase that," and they press the buy now button, for a better term. Now, what happens here is that Sagepay then registers the transaction. So it says somebody is about to make a transaction, and they start sending responses back to pages that are probably on your website, so that they notify you, right? And that notification starts to have a conversation with Sagepay system. Not much of which, in fact, a very small amount of which, is actually seen by the purchaser. Right? The purchaser thinks that all they're doing is entering the card details. But whilst they're entering the card details, this conversation is going on in the background between Sagepay and your pages, where I've got this person, but is this really what's intended? Are you okay that they're purchasing this? And you say yes, they'll go ahead, or no, and they won't. And you get to a point where Sagepay says, oh, okay, if you're confirming this, then at the due point in the next 24 hours, I'll settle the payment with the bank, right? And it goes into their systems. And there's a completion process where the visitor gets shunted back to your website, right? Now, as compared to the PayPal situation, this is a better situation technically, right? Without going into the details, simply because the ordering of these messages is guaranteed, right? The visitor doesn't get through to the end without a lot of these intermediate things happening, right? So it means that the developer who's either put, if you've implemented a plugin that does it, the plugin is collecting all of these details. Now, if you want to make sure that the details are seen by Google Analytics or AdWords, well, you go and look at the bits of code that are receiving notifications and see whether you can instrument them, either directly or perhaps indirectly using something like Google Tag Manager. So you have opportunities, right, to improve your measurement of process if you've got a payment gateway of this sort, right? So that is a short run through of the different types of payment system that you can have, right? Now, all of it assumes that the answer to are purchases worth measuring is yes, right? It's fairly obvious that that would be the case, because whilst things are measured elsewhere, and somebody might say, well, why bother measuring it in analytics and AdWords as well? The point is, it's measuring it in analytics and AdWords that allows you best to tune your marketing process, to tune your lead generation process, and adjusting those tactics, right? Oh, pardon me. Adjusting those tactics is what will enable you to create greater success as time rolls on, right? It gets around manual transfer of information, manual interpretation, all sorts of things that bedevil systematic improvement, right? So you've got defined steps, and the information flows through, and you get reports in analytics that people who can read, who are not necessarily into the technical details. And you'll, whilst I've gone through something that is relatively detailed this afternoon, you'll see that I haven't gone into much technical detail. I've mentioned things like JavaScript and cookies, but I'm not talking about the details of what they do, simply that these things exist, right? So I'm hoping that this is putting you in a situation where you feel that you can understand more about what's going on in a measurement process and in a payment process when working with payment gateways. So summary is we've got three basic steps. We've got the beginning, where perhaps you assemble the shopping cart, right? We've got middle, where in principle you want to capture the transaction details, right? You want to capture those because at the end, at the point that the visitor has finished their interaction, you want to make sure the details either can be sent or have been sent into AdWords, into Analytics, into the CRM system, or wherever. Right. So that's been a run through of the situation with purchasing and analytics. I hope that's been useful. Right. If there were things that didn't make sense, if you're on live, I'll hang around for a few minutes and we can have some Q&A. But if you're listening to the replay, please feel free to drop an email. You can reach me. I'll put my details on the screen at the end, and ask me questions, ask for explanations about what didn't make sense or something that's particular to your situation. Right. So, having done that, if you've got feedback, right, I would welcome that. So you can send that to me, right? And my contact details, there's my LinkedIn profile, right? There's my email, and there's the website, and the blog is blog.kksmarts.com. I really ought to add that to the slide. It's been nice to talk to you this afternoon. I hope you found that useful. Do let me know of any improvements you feel that we could make to make them more useful for you. And I'll look forward to talking to you next time. This is Vernon Riley saying thank you for being with us, and bye for now.